The tool in your garage with the green trigger was not made by the company whose name is on it. Let that sit for a moment. The Ryobi drill, the Ryobi circular saw, the Ryobi orbital sander sitting on your workbench. None of these were designed by Ryobi, manufactured by Ryobi, or sold to the store by Ryobi. The company that did all of those things is a Hong Kong-based conglomerate called Techtronic Industries. Ryobi Limited, the original Japanese company that created this brand and built it into a recognizable name over 5 decades, sold its power tool business at the turn of this century and walked away. It has spent the years since making automotive parts and printing presses. Today, Ryobi Limited collects licensing fees. TTI makes the tools. This is the story most coverage of Ryobi either misses entirely or gets wrong. And understanding it properly changes how you think not just about Ryobi, but about how the entire modern power tool industry actually works. But before we get to the corporate structure, we need to understand where Ryobi came from, because the origin of this company is unlike almost any other tool brand you can name, and that difference in origin explains everything that came afterward. The year is 1943. Japan is deep into the Second World War, and a man named Takeshi Tanaka founds a company in Fuchu, a city in Hiroshima Prefecture, in a building that had previously been used as a soy sauce factory. He knows almost nothing about the manufacturing process he's about to attempt. He has the building, he has the wartime government's need for precision metal components, and he has a determination to figure out die casting, which is the process of injecting molten aluminum or zinc alloy into hardened steel molds under enormous pressure to produce precisely shaped metal parts at high volume. Die casting in 1943 was not a widely understood industrial process in Japan. Tanaka taught himself and his team how to do it, more or less, by working through the problems as they arrived. The war created a compressed timeline for this learning. The military needed aluminum housings, brackets, and components immediately, and there was no time for a gentle learning curve. When Japan surrendered in 1945 and the military contracts disappeared overnight, Ryobi was left with a deep expertise in precision aluminum die casting and essentially no civilian customers for that expertise. What the company did next established the pattern that would define it for the next 80 years. It looked at its existing manufacturing capability, asked what civilian industries needed exactly what it could produce, and pivoted. The first pivot was automotive parts. Japan's post-war reconstruction, and later its automotive manufacturing boom, created enormous demand for precisely die-cast aluminum engine components, transmission housings, and structural parts. Ryobi was already positioned with the tooling, the workforce, and the process knowledge to supply exactly what the new Japanese auto industry needed. This remains one of Ryobi Limited's core businesses today. The second pivot was printing equipment. Offset printing presses require precisely machined metal components, particularly the rollers, frames, and housing elements that determine whether a printed image registers accurately across thousands of sheets per hour. Die-cast aluminum, machined to tight tolerances, is exactly what these components require. Ryobi developed a printing press division that grew into a significant global business and still operates today. The third pivot is the one that interests us here. By the mid-1960s, Ryobi's engineers noticed something about the consumer power tools that were beginning to enter Japanese and export markets. The housings of these tools, the exterior shells that enclosed the motor, gears, and handles, were die-cast aluminum. The component that Ryobi had been making with extraordinary precision for automotive and printing press applications for 20 years was the same component that enclosed a power drill. This is the insight that most retellings of the Ryobi story miss, because it makes Ryobi sound less romantic than brands founded by passionate craftsmen solving specific problems. Ryobi did not enter power tools because a founder was frustrated by inadequate drilling equipment. Ryobi entered power tools because they looked at their manufacturing capability, looked at what power tool housings were made of, and concluded that they could build excellent housings. Then, they built the tool around the housing. This is what analysts sometimes call a capability-based entry, entering a market because your existing capabilities translate directly into the new product, rather than a passion-based or problem-based entry. Compare this to Milwaukee Tool, founded in 1924, specifically because Henry Ford's engineers needed a lighter drill for automotive assembly work, or DeWalt, whose founder, Raymond DeWalt, created the radial arm saw in 1923 to solve the specific problem of cutting long boards accurately in a carpentry shop. Both of those founding stories are about solving a specific professional problem. Ryobi's story is about having the manufacturing capability to make excellent tool housings, and logically extending into the product that used them. And then we arrive at 1996, and the decision that turned Ryobi from a significant tool brand into the world's dominant DIY tool ecosystem, the 18-volt 1 Plus battery system. Ryobi's engineers looked at the battery platforms that were beginning to emerge across the cordless tool market and made a design choice that was, at the time, Commercially risky and, in retrospect, one of the most strategically correct decisions in consumer product history. They committed to backward compatibility for the long term. Every tool in the 18-volt 1+ system would accept every battery in the system, regardless of when the tool was manufactured or when the battery was manufactured. Think about what this means in practice. A Ryobi 18-volt battery purchased in 1996, if you still have one, physically fits a Ryobi tool manufactured in 2024. A Ryobi battery purchased in 2024 physically fits a Ryobi tool from 1996. This compatibility has been maintained deliberately across nearly 30 years of continued product development. No other major cordless tool platform in history has maintained this level of backward compatibility for this duration. Milwaukee's M18 system, launched in 2009, is 15 years old and is the next most comparable in longevity among premium brands. And Milwaukee has done an excellent job maintaining compatibility within that window. But Ryobi's 30-year commitment predates it by 15 years and has encompassed a staggeringly wider range of products. That range is the part that requires a moment of genuine attention. The Ryobi 18-volt 1+ ecosystem today includes more than 300 compatible tools and accessories. Not 300 versions of drills and saws, though those are there. 300 products that share the same battery, including fans, including radios with Bluetooth speakers, including heated work jackets, including inflators that fill tires and sports equipment, including shop vacuums, including LED work lights, including a digital hygrometer, including outdoor power equipment from lawnmowers to leaf blowers, including a meat thermometer, including a portable cooler, 300 products, all sharing the same battery that Ryobi designed in 1996. Here is the strategic logic that explains why this works. The 18-volt lithium-ion battery that powers a Ryobi drill is not cheap. A good Ryobi battery with real capacity costs between $40 and $100, depending on the amp-hour rating. When a customer buys their first Ryobi tool, they are buying a battery. When they buy their second Ryobi tool, they have a battery. When they are considering whether to buy an outdoor blower from Ryobi or from a competitor, they have to weigh the cost of the new tool alone against the cost of the tool, plus entering a new battery ecosystem. This is what business strategists call ecosystem lock-in, and Ryobi has executed it more effectively than any other consumer tool brand. The battery is the product. The drill is a battery accessory. The saw is a battery accessory. The fan and the radio and the meat thermometer are battery accessories. By the mid-1990s, Ryobi had built a significant and growing tool business. But by the late 1990s, Ryobi Limited was facing the broader pressures on Japanese manufacturing that were affecting many traditional industrial companies. Competition from low-cost manufacturing in China was intensifying. The capital requirements of maintaining competitive product development across automotive, printing, and power tools simultaneously were significant. And the power tool division, while profitable, was a distraction from what Ryobi Limited's core engineering capability actually was. Between 2000 and 2005, Ryobi Limited made a decision that almost no one in the DIY tool buying public is aware of. It sold its power tool operations in North America and key export markets, and licensed the Ryobi brand name for power tools to a company that was, at the time, not particularly well known outside of Hong Kong financial circles. That company was Techtronic Industries, TTI. TTI was founded in 1985 in Hong Kong by Horst Julius Pudwill and Roy Chi Ping Chung. Its initial business was electronics products, but it was moving aggressively into power tools. The acquisition of the Ryobi power tool licensing rights was one of its foundational moves in establishing itself as a major player in the Western consumer tool market. But Ryobi was not the only acquisition TTI was making at this time. In 2005, TTI acquired Milwaukee Electric Tool. Yes, the Milwaukee tool that professional contractors and serious tradespeople treat as a professional benchmark is owned by the same Hong Kong company that owns the Ryobi license. The same parent company now controlled through different ownership and licensing arrangements, brands operating at completely different price points and professional expectations. This created a three-tier structure that TTI then aligned vertically with its retail relationships, and specifically with its most important retail partner, Home Depot. TTI's relationship with Home Depot is one of the most strategically important retail arrangements in the power tool industry. Ryobi, in the United States, is sold essentially exclusively through Home Depot. You will not find Ryobi power tools at Lowe's. You will not find them at Target or Walmart, or in any significant competitor to Home Depot's home improvement retail format. This is not an accident or a consequence of Home Depot simply being the biggest buyer. It is a deliberate exclusive arrangement that benefits both parties significantly. Home Depot gets exclusive access to the world's highest volume DIY tool brand. Every customer who decides to start building a Ryobi battery ecosystem has to buy those tools at Home Depot. Every subsequent battery purchase, every tool addition, every accessory purchase returns that customer to Home Depot. The Ryobi ecosystem is a Home Depot retention mechanism dressed as a tool brand. TTI gets guaranteed premium shelf space in every Home Depot location across the United States, promotional placement, catalog integration, and the marketing power of being the featured DIY tool brand at the world's largest home improvement retailer. Home Depot's annual power tool revenues run into the billions of dollars, and Ryobi represents a very significant portion of that. Neither party has any incentive to disrupt this arrangement. Milwaukee Tool sits at a different point in the same retail landscape, available through professional supply houses, Amazon, Home Depot, and other channels. The professional brand is not exclusively tied to one retailer the way the DIY brand is. The TTI corporate structure is worth understanding clearly because it explains some things about Ryobi tools that might otherwise seem puzzling. Why do Ryobi tools sometimes feature technology that looks similar to Milwaukee technology several years later? Because it is. The same engineering teams at TTI that develop innovations for Milwaukee's professional product lines are working on technology that will eventually be refined, value engineered for cost reduction, and deployed in Ryobi tools. Brushless motors are a useful example. Milwaukee introduced brushless motor technology into its M18 professional line years before Ryobi offered brushless tools in its OnePlus ecosystem. The underlying motor technology, the concept of electronically commutating a motor without mechanical brushes that wear out, was the same. TTI's engineering team developed and proved the technology in the professional market, where performance-focused buyers were willing to pay the premium for it. Then they brought it to Ryobi after the manufacturing cost had been driven down through production scale and process refinement. This is not cynical. It is actually how good technology transfer works. Professional users provide a demanding test environment that validates and refines the technology. Consumer users then benefit from a more proven, lower-cost version. TTI runs this process more deliberately and more effectively than most competitors. The engineering headquarters for TTI's power tool development is split between Hong Kong and Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where Milwaukee Tool maintains a significant engineering and product development presence. Manufacturing, for the vast majority of Ryobi products, happens in China and Vietnam, where TTI operates large-scale manufacturing facilities. This is the modern reality of the consumer power tool supply chain, and Ryobi is not unusual in this respect. Now let us come back to Ryobi Limited, the original Japanese company, because what they have been doing since they exited the power tool business is an interesting story in itself. Ryobi Limited remains a publicly traded company on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. Its revenue is substantial, several hundred billion yen annually. Its business today is organized around three segments. Automotive components are the largest, still delivering precision die-cast aluminum parts to Toyota, Honda, Mazda, and other Japanese and international automakers. The company is now investing significantly in die-cast components for electric vehicle platforms, recognizing that battery pack housings and structural EV components are an enormous growth market that plays directly into its core capability. Printing and communication systems remain a significant division, with Ryobi Limited's offset press equipment used in commercial printing facilities around the world. The company has invested in digital printing integration and workflow management software to extend its relevance, as offset printing volume has declined relative to digital alternatives. Ryobi Limited also maintains a power tool operation in Japan and in some Asian markets. The licensing arrangement with TTI covers specific geographic territories. And within Japan itself, Ryobi Limited still markets and sells Ryobi-branded tools with its own products. This creates the somewhat unusual situation where, in different parts of the world, tools carrying the same brand name are actually made by completely different companies. The Ryobi you buy at Home Depot is a TTI product. The Ryobi you buy in Japan may be a Ryobi Limited product. They are built to different specifications by different engineering teams in different facilities, and one of them is descended directly from the company that invented the brand, while the other is operated by a licensee that has been running the Western consumer business for over 20 years. This is not fraud or deception in any legal sense. Brand licensing is common across every consumer industry, from fashion to food to power tools. But it is information that most buyers at Home Depot have never encountered, and that changes the context for understanding what they are purchasing. The practical implications for the typical Ryobi buyer are worth being clear about. The TTI-made Ryobi products sold through Home Depot are well-designed, genuinely capable consumer DIY tools, backed by a meaningful warranty and supported by the broadest battery ecosystem in the DIY tool market. The brand may have been created by a Japanese die-casting company that no longer makes these products, but the products themselves are not compromised by the corporate complexity behind them. The OnePlus 18-volt ecosystem is a genuine strategic achievement. Over 100 million tools sold, over 300 compatible products, nearly 30 years of maintained backward compatibility. These are not marketing claims. They are measurable facts that explain why Ryobi is the world's highest volume DIY tool brand by units sold. The Home Depot relationship creates convenience for DIY customers who are already Home Depot shoppers, and the exclusivity means those shoppers will always be able to find Ryobi product support and accessories at their local store. The TTI connection to Milwaukee gives Ryobi buyers some indirect benefit from professional-grade engineering investment, even if the specific Ryobi products sit below Milwaukee's performance tier by design. And the story of Ryobi Limited's origin, a soy sauce factory in 1943, a technology they taught themselves under wartime pressure, decades of precision manufacturing experience, and a pivoting intelligence that recognized power tool housings as an obvious application of their existing expertise, is the kind of company origin story that explains a durable industrial capability in a way that brand mythology usually obscures. The green tools in your garage were built by a Hong Kong company in a Chinese or Vietnamese factory with technology initially developed for professional Milwaukee users, sold exclusively through a single American retailer, under a brand name owned by a Japanese die-casting company that also makes Toyota engine parts and commercial printing presses. That is the tool in your garage. And despite all of that complexity, when you put a charged battery on it and it drives a screw into a stud without hesitation, the history is not really what you were thinking about. It works. That is the part that matters.